listening to The Mortgage Scientists, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Hi, I'm Dave Forrest.
I'm Chris Hume. Together, we are the Mortgage Scientists.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Dave.
Episode 9. Subject this time, buy-to-let mortgages.
What do you mean by buy-to-let, Dave?
Buying a house and renting it out.
That's a good shout.
Is
it a good shout?
It depends.
Isn't it just?
Yeah, another massive subject. I'd probably say this side of the mortgage industry is probably where you will do it with a broker. I don't think there'll be many people who would approach a lender direct. There are some lenders out there who'll do it direct, but more it's through a broker, isn't it?
It's such a specialist area of borrowing money and structuring an investment that you really want to take advice.
Yeah, and it's become more complicated, I think, probably over the years, hasn't it? As everything does. Little caveats to that. You've got maybe buying properties that you might want to do up and sell on, flipping as we call it in the industry. Maybe longer term lets, maybe we call them HMOs, don't we? Where a number of rooms within a house and all the licenses around that. But I suppose on this episode we might just cover the basic buy-to-let stuff.
We'll keep it simple.
We'll keep it simple this time, yeah. But that might look like you've got a little bit of money, maybe out your pension, or you've saved some, or maybe a bit of equity in your own property. And you might want to go and buy a house, maybe do a little bit of work on it, and have an investment. That's what we generally look at, don't we? It's an investment.
It is. People have long seen houses as a solid, staple investment return, whether that's on the capital growth and the value of the asset itself, or whether that's earning money from rental income.
And when you sat down with someone, I'd always say, what's your plan? What's your business plan? Is it to, again, have this property till you retire, and then you're going to sell it and you're going to have a lump sum? Because as we say, if house prices keep going up as they do, that will happen. Or do you want to maximise the rental income to maybe reduce your hours in work, give up work, or just have another income coming into the household?
It's understanding, why do you actually want to do it? Are you doing it because you've watched all these programs on TV where they don't expect the legal pack before they buy something at auction but still make a fortune? It is having your own plan, but it's also understanding how the legalities around owning a property, the tax regimes around it, will feature for you and your circumstances.
Yeah. And more nowadays, because things have changed again over the years, whereby the way that rental income is taxed is different. We would always say, get a good accountant to give you some advice first off of how you're going to structure it.
Yeah.
Because limited company buy-to-lets, i.e. you set up a limited company and your properties are bought and owned through that. And then that company, then you're a director and you pay yourself how you pay yourself. That gets even more complicated, and we would always say, that's not our bag, is it?
We're not tax advisors. No. We are mortgage advisors. Yeah. We work in conjunction with your other professional advisor, your accountant and your solicitor. Yeah. And it's basically having your three magic people to help you make the right decision. Yeah. Because ultimately, when you're deciding to buy a property as an investment, it's a very illiquid way to earn money. You can't turn a property back into cash very quickly, and the tax regimes around it do seem to change pretty regularly and not in the favour of the landlord.
No, and I'd always say, get a good letting agent to help you as well, who may well needs to advise you on. As we stand at the moment, the Renters Reform Bill has passed and is on its way in, and there's a lot of stuff around there making sure the property's correct and up to standard.
I think there's so much in the way of tenant protections these days. There's been a lot of rogue landlords have been able to get away with substandard properties in the past, which has led to the Renters Reform Act coming about. But that has unfortunately captured a lot of landlords that genuinely did have the right interests at heart for their tenants. People are feeling a lot of strain and a lot of pinch, to an extent where some landlords that only have maybe one or two properties seem to be wanting to exit the market at the moment.
And if we look at mortgage side, I suppose people will say to you, well, why do I need a buy-to-let mortgage? Why do I need this different one? Can I just buy it with a normal mortgage? And it's around the legalities, isn't it, of the mortgage contract? Because if you're on a residential mortgage, the lender needs to have certain controls over that. And if you've got someone in there renting, they haven't got that. So we need a specific type of mortgage, and that's where the buy-to-let market comes in.
Like you say, on a residential mortgage, the lender is looking at the affordability from your income and expenditure to see that you can afford to pay that month in, month out from your day-to-day income. With a buy-to-let mortgage, what the lender is looking at is whether the rental income from your tenant will be sufficient not only to make the mortgage payment, but also to cover those ancillary costs. So your letting agent covering any void periods, any repairs or maintenance that might be needed, the insurances for the property. Lenders will have a rental calculator that will want to see that the rental income is a certain margin above your mortgage payment to work out whether they will lend you the money. So it's a very different way of lenders looking at that affordability and how much they will lend, but they also want to make sure that it's reasonable in terms of, is it the kind of thing that you would do as a client?
Yeah, so much goes into it then, doesn't it? We talk about the renters reform bill. The lender has to take that into account. What's the property like when they're doing valuations on it? It's got to be in a good state to rent out, and if it's not, you might have to do different types of finance to get it to that stage.
Yeah, EPCs are a big one that are having an impact on landlords now. Various legislations that have come about in the last sort of 6-7 years have wanted landlords to make their properties as energy efficient as possible for the tenants to reduce the bills that tenants are paying in energy costs. So it's moving in the right direction for tenant protection, but it's adding a significant burden to landlords. And these are all the burdens that landlords should weigh up before they enter into buying a buy-to-let.
We're just going to go to a commercial break. We'll be back after this short message.
Do you have a passion, hobby, or expertise and want to share it with the world? Why not do a podcast? The Pod Station offers a wide range of packages to make this a reality, ranging from training and support for those who have no idea where to begin, to podcasters who just need somewhere to host their show. With prices starting at a mere £15 per month, you can now get involved in one of the fastest growing entertainment forms in the world without all the headaches. To find out more, visit thepodstation.co.uk/station-packages. And remember, those with passion, podcast. This episode is sponsored by Dunkin' Biscuits, a biscuit lover's guide by Chris Hugh.
All this impacts on the lender's appetite and criteria, doesn't it? Because the lender is under restrictions as well of what types of property they have. They want theirs to be of a good EPC, their mortgage book looking well. They're under targets as well of the way they lend. It affects everything, really.
It does, and when you're looking at your standard house to rent out to a single family, that's the main thing that most landlords will look at. There are other specialisms that landlords might look at, HMOs and that kind of thing, but we'll cover those off in a different episode because they are a whole new world on their own.
Yeah. I mean, typically when you're buying a property to rent out and you're looking for a buy-to-let mortgage, typically you need to put a deposit of 25% down, not that 10 or 5% that you will do on a residential property. They want a bit more commitment.
Lenders are assessing the risk to them, and a bigger deposit reduces their risk in the event that they needed to repossess the property and ask you to leave the keys on the sideboard on the way out.
Yeah, because all lenders, that's the way they work. They're looking at the worst case scenario, I suppose. So whenever you're wanting to build a bit of a portfolio up, you've got to consider that, I'm going to need a 25% deposit on my first one. Your second one, you can now look at 80. I know there are some 85% mortgages, so 15% deposit, but typical 20 or 25% deposit.
It really is down to that rental calculation. That can be more of an impact on how much you can borrow against a certain property based on the rental income that property might produce. Looking at how you would structure that across one or two or more properties, you're then building up a plan going forward.
And the other thing you need to plan for is, what am I going to do? You might want to buy a property, do some work on it, rent it out, and then think that maybe in a few years it'll be worth a bit more, and then you can pull some out of that on a remortgage and maybe invest that in your second property or your third and your fourth. That's generally how you go, isn't it?
That's typically how people will build up a portfolio of properties. And I suppose if that's your plan, you may seriously want to think about limited company structures and speaking to your accountant about how that scenario might be more beneficial to you. But whichever way you look to buy a buy-to-let property, you have to factor in that there will be significant additional costs, particularly around stamp duty. So your acquisition cost will be significantly higher than if you're just buying a house for you to live in.
Yeah.
Surcharges of 3-5% that we've had, who knows whether they may go up even more in future budgets. So the acquisition costs are fairly significant. I think the other element is also planning your exit strategy.
Yeah.
Capital gains tax is potentially, it's one of those elements you need to budget on how much that will be for you at a point you want to exit. But again, who knows? It's a damp finger in the air to find out where capital gains tax might be in 10 or 15 years.
We're not going to predict where that's going at all, no. Typically on the mortgage side, people will say, why is my interest rate on buy-to-let slightly higher? It is always a little bit higher than the general residential market because it's a specialist market, isn't it? These lenders, if you're looking at your high street lenders who might be dabbling in the buy-to-let side of things, there's a certain amount of their mortgage book can be on buy-to-let anyway. They can't have it all on buy-to-let. But then you have got some specialist buy-to-let lenders who only lend in the buy-to-let market. Again, it's sitting down with your broker, looking at what the interest rate is, what any fees are for applying for the mortgage. Interest rate might look really competitive, but look at the fee that you're paying for that, because that might be a lot higher than the one with a slightly higher rate, but it's the overall deal again, isn't it?
It is looking at that true cost over a period of time and find out which is going to be the right product for you. Lenders have been quite inventive.
Yes, that's the word.
Shall we say, in recent years, because as the guidelines on rental calculations and yields have changed by the regulators, lenders have potentially structured their products where the fee that they charge for a rate is much higher, but that then brings down the product rate to make the affordability model fit better so that it brings more properties into the realms of affordability. It's not all about choosing the rate with the lowest fee or whatever. There's factors that might be that you can only borrow the amount you want by going with a product that has a really high fee.
Yeah, which again, that goes across all mortgages, doesn't it? It's not just about the rate. Typically, that's what's talked about, is the interest rates and the criteria and everything else. If you look at rents have really rocketed over the last few years, haven't they? You know, I think we're getting to a point now, 2026, we're now back into that area where the rent you're getting in against the mortgage you might well be paying, you are starting to make some decent profit on that. When interest rate went up to 6.5%, 7%, it didn't really work, did it?
It didn't. And when you're looking at a very raw, that's the income, that's the expenditure, it does appear to be quite profitable. If you factor in your personal tax regime, if you're a high rate taxpayer, you might find that it becomes actually a loss in cash terms. So accountancy advice in terms of your current tax position, basic rate, non-taxpayer, high rate taxpayer, that will have a massive impact on how you want to structure any purchase of a buy-to-let and where the limited company features. It is so individual, but don't fall into it because everybody else is trying to do it. Well, not everybody else isn't trying to do it. Don't fall into it because it seems like a good thing for everyone else. You will only hear the nice stories on social media. Tend not to hear the horror stories. We've had the horror stories.
I'd say it's running a business. Whether you're buying one as an individual to rent one out, or you want to build a portfolio of 50, 100, you need to set out from the start, do a business plan, because it's running a business, isn't it? What's the cost going to be? How much money am I going to make over time? Is that going to be worth it, or do we do something else? Sitting down with a mortgage broker, getting in touch, sitting down from the start and planning it just gives you a whole smoother process, really.
It does, and your broker can guide you as to which lenders are more likely to lend on the plan that you have.
And then again, look, we can do other episodes where you go into sort of semi-commercial and all that stuff, so we'll do all that. But I think it's a fascinating subject, but so much more to come. What I would say, anyone out there who wants to drop us an email with any questions, the email's in the description. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll get on another episode and talk a bit more in depth about those other things.
We can have some Q&As, can't we, Dave?
Yeah, we could. We could have a live. Now, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It'd almost be like a mortgage appointment online.
It would.
Loads to talk about. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank
See
you
on
again,
the next
Dave.
one.
See you soon. Thank you, mate.
To find out more, email info@themortgagescientist.co.uk.